This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk, College Sports Huddle, covering basketball and football. We'll talk some football tonight. Welcome all of you live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, elsewhere. Welcome to you who will listen to this on what do we call them? Podcast sites that it'll go to, audio pod sites. Welcome to you. And welcome to you Roku viewers when you see this tomorrow, Thursday at noon for the first time. And welcome to the Northeast Streaming Sports viewers. Guys, get out there. Join Northeast Streaming Sports. Join TGI Sports Talk. Get the Roku devices downloaded. We're really growing really quickly. The site's growing on Facebook, and we're really growing quickly on Roku as well. So very exciting times, and very exciting times for me to be back in the studio after 2 weeks away. No, I guess 2 weeks ago I was in the studio. Last week we tried to do the show. Hopefully you saw it okay. Some people said they saw the stream great. Others did not. We had some internet problems on the Carnival Magic, which I was not happy about. I'd let them know about some of the problems I felt I had, not just doing my show, which I thought gave them some good pub, by the way, as well. But also just being able to kind of keep up with things. And the internet was terrible on the ship, which was the first time that's ever happened to me. But I was on the Caribbean, so how hard could that be? How bad could it be? Welcome, guys. I'm glad to be back on the mainland, but it was a lot of fun. I love our 2 cruises a year. It is what keeps me going, along with this show. All my shows. Listen, College Sports Huddle tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Hopefully your topics, bring them to them. Good morning. Good morning. Good evening, Rick Sherlock. How are you? Guys, a couple of things we're going to talk about. Mark Mancini won't be joining us tonight. He will return. He'll be off Sunday as well. He's doing some traveling and he's had some meetings with Sirius XM because he's got a channel on Sirius XM, guys. Mark Mancini's a busy guy. I know we joke with him a lot about some of his nutty hot takes, but Mark's a good guy, knows his stuff sometimes, and we let him know when we think he doesn't. But look, he's got a good gift for this genre, and I'm glad to have him on my show from time to time. So he won't be with us tonight or next this coming Sunday, but he will return regularly next Wednesday, I believe. So I know it's been a while since we had Mark, and we'll certainly get back to that. Tonight, guys, we're going to talk your topics, as I said. We'll start with some college football. We're going to talk a little bit about the playoff nonsense. Look at this, the NCAA, and I talked about it a little bit Sunday. We'll talk more about that tonight, maybe a few other odds and ends around college football, but we'll get into college basketball, and we'll get into the Juwan Howard issue. I've got some very strong opinions on both sides of this. And just to give you a preview, Juwan Howard is not alone in fault in this thing. He becomes the face of it. But you know, there's more to this story. But I want to talk about how it's going to affect, sideline handshakes in general, Michigan's chances going forward, and we'll dive into what all this means for Michigan and the Big Ten possibly. We'll take a look at the top 16 seeds, the in-season seeding that was done back on the 19th, I think. We'll look at those seeds and see how they've done since when we dive into the top 25. And we'll do a little bit of bracketology tonight as well. And also look at what other stories are out there. There's some interesting developments, some teams starting to make some moves in both directions. Memphis moving in the right direction, Arkansas moving in the right direction, and some moving in the wrong direction, like Michigan State and Tom Izzo, very surprisingly, which we'll talk about tonight as well. And again, bring your topics. If you guys got stuff you want to talk about, and you got comments on what we are discussing at the moment, as always, please join in. Let's start with some football. I keep trying to make sense of what the NCAA is trying to prove by not expanding this playoff. I mean, they basically, excuse my French, pissed away $450 million in the next couple of years as it's 2026 before we're going to get a chance at having having a expanded playoff now. Went down by a vote of 8-3. And again, as I mentioned Saturday, shockingly to me, the Pac-12 votes no. Pac-12, just their only option to get teams in this playoff is to expand it. I don't know what they're thinking about. The ACC also voted no, and the Big Ten. Again, this comes back down to money, I'm sure. All of it. Right now, supposedly, we're dead in the water as far as expansion goes. I don't know what happened because back in June, I guess it was. When was the June 10th? I guess it was when the 12-team proposal was released, and pretty much everybody seemed to be behind it. There was some squabbling over, whether there would be 5 or 6 or whatever guaranteed spots, whether the Power 5 should be guaranteed the spots, or whether it should go to the top 6 ranked conference winners. Hold on, we got a little. Forgot to mute my other computer here. So, and everybody seemed to be behind this. And then, it started to just then they started going, well, maybe we'll go to 8 teams, and Notre Dame doesn't want that, certainly. Not with 5 teams or 6 teams being guaranteed spots, because they've got a 1-4 shot now. With 8 teams, they got a 1-2 or a 1-3 shot. Most likely the same with all of the power conferences. So they don't want 8 teams. But apparently they don't want 12. I don't understand what the NCAA is thinking. The things that they do, whether it's this, whether it's the NIL. Uh-oh, what happened? Why am I frozen? Oh, I'm back. I don't know what happened there. How long was I frozen in time? I don't know what happened. I hit something wrong, and something went all kerflooey. So I'm trying desperately to mute this damn computer. All right. So, I mean, the release of this was kind of the bombshell story of the 2021 summer lead up to the college football season last year. Along with the NIL. But along the way, things started to fall apart. And I don't know if it's accurate or fair to kind of pin the all of this on, say, the ACC or the Pac-12. Some of these schools, like the Big Ten, they wanted to make sure they had automatic qualifiers regardless of ranking. I don't think that should be the way this works. And again, if you would just take my suggestion, which I ripped off from some guy who wrote a book, by the way, as we all know. I never claimed it was mine, and I will not claim tonight that it's mine. But the suggestion that I jumped on the bandwagon of of a 16-team playoff where all of the conferences, the 10 power conference, not 10 power conferences, but the conferences that play legitimate FBS 1 football, give them all an automatic bid, and then you have 6 wild cards, at-large teams, as it were, which we'll talk about in college basketball in a little bit. It would work perfectly. Nobody would be left out that deserve. Well, nobody should be left out that would deserve to be left out. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure who to blame here. I'm not sure whether to blame the ACC. I'm not sure whether to blame the Pac-12. And again, to me, these are leagues that would be helped by expansion. You go to a 12-team playoff, the ACC is always going to have somebody in. All of the power conferences are going to have somebody in. Every time. But no. What's Rick got here? Rick's moving on to this isn't tonight, is it, Rick? I know they just upset Villanova here this week. Is this tonight's game you're talking about? Danny Early getting a second tee? Look at UConn is playing well. We'll get into that in a second. I just want to talk a little bit about this one more time about this playoff, and we won't take it very far. And I'll come back to football later because I know a lot of times we have, John DeLon and a few guys come in that want to talk about football. But this was the big story of the week, and I don't know what's next. I don't know whether whether they'll revisit this before the TV contracts expire in 2025 or not. I know negotiating windows open up with ESPN in October of 2024. ESPN is really gobbling up the rights to these bowl games, to these playoffs, and it's to me this is getting to be a problem, and a monopoly type problem, because the ESPN is also behind helping some of these teams to negotiate changing conferences like Oklahoma and Texas did to the SEC. Because now ESPN's going to have the SEC package exclusively away from CBS here in a couple of years. And which is sad to me, by the way. I have spent a lifetime, it seems, watching SEC football at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon on CBS with a beer, getting ready for a fire outside with the grill going. And now there'll be no more of that. Not on CBS. I go back a long ways. I miss Vern Lundquist. It's not the same anyway without Vern Lundquist. I like Lundquist when he worked with Gary Danielson. And to me, it was a Saturday afternoon tradition for a long, long time. And it's not the same anymore. And it won't be the same, I don't feel, when it's on ESPN. Because ESPN tricks everything up. They just can't just do a football game. As good as some of the stuff ESPN does, ESPN Game Day, tremendous. But ESPN game coverage, in my mind, too much of hyperbole and whatever. Not happy. I will move on here. Let's jump into it. We'll come back to some college football later, perhaps. We'll see where we're going to go. I do want to get into, and I will start with Rick's comments here. Wait now while I try to get my camera back. There we go. Something's going on I got to check my computer. Maybe my camera needs an upgrade or something, because it does this periodically. So anyway, Rick's talking about Danny Hurley getting the second tee for getting a crowd into the game. He feels it's BS. UConn is playing well right now. Some officials are sensitive. You know, they're probably sensitive because of the whole Juwan Howard thing. And this is really what's sad about the situation with Juwan Howard. Now, I'm gonna put that banner up now, I guess, because we're gonna be talking about this very quickly. This is a byproduct, Rick, of, you're right. I think now you're going to find these officials getting very sensitive to what's going on here. Man, I got bad signal tonight. Don't know why. Hang on a minute, guys. I'm on the right place. Yeah, hopefully we'll be okay. This is definitely a byproduct of what's gone on with the whole Juwan Howard thing. I've repeated myself 3 times now. The officials are going to get very sensitive, as Rick said, and very, they're going to be hyper aware of everything going on in the game. Anything that will incite the crowd or incite the teams, which is what makes college basketball so great, right? Is that excitement that comes from, this is a coach-driven league still, to me. The NCAA always has been. NCAA basketball is coach-driven and crowd-driven. Players are great. The players don't stick around long enough to continue to elicit the fans' excitement. It's the coaches that stay for year after year, and the coaches that can rile up these fans and get them excited. Can you hear that? Oh my gosh, guys. I'm having every problem tonight. Now the cat is somewhere behind me, howling. Great TV. Oh my God. What do you got, Alan? Good evening, Alan. How are you? So right now we're talking about the Juwan Howard situation. How it's going to impact. Right now we're talking about how it's impacting possibly maybe the UConn game where Danny Hurley's getting a second technical, which I assume he's tossed from the game, right, Rick? But I don't want to put that on streaming because if my internet is weak for some reason, I don't want to mess it up by streaming. So tell me what channel it's on. I might pop it on here at some point. But let's look at the Juwan Howard and dissect this whole thing. This whole thing starts because guys, I'm going to take a timeout real quick, okay? Bear with me. I will be right back. All right. We're back. It's one of those nights, guys. I had better look at a cruise ship, for crying out loud. Oh, let's look at how this whole thing started. It started in a blowout, right? Wisconsin's blowing out Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got their second and third stringers in the game. Michigan's still pressing, still trying to catch it up and win the game. They're not going to win, but they're still pressing. So Greg Gard calls a timeout so he doesn't get an 8-second violation with his second and third stringers. And Juwan Howard takes umbrage to this. And then in the post-game handshake, Greg Gard feels the need to explain himself as Juwan Howard's just going to walk by him. Greg Gard puts his hands on him. Wrong move, Greg. Sorry. Let it go. Explain it to him later. But then it gets a little heated. Juwan Howard uses some strong language and a finger. And then later on takes a swing. I don't know. I've watched this video 100 times. it looked to me like he just reached out and slapped the guy, but then he comes back with his fist. But then you watch from another angle, it almost looks like a swing. Either way, not great leadership by either coach. Juwan Howard's taken the brunt of this because of, he took a swing, and I think probably rightfully so. But please do not, let's not give Greg Gard a total pass here. He did not have to keep his hands on Juwan Howard after he was asked to stop. And that incites a full-blown, fist fight with players, with coaches, with some fans involved. I did see your post about Coach Paso from Siena a few years back. He was a character as well. Guys, I don't think we should have to get rid of the post-game handshakes, by the way. There's talk about that, and I think the majority of the coaches don't want to do it, but there's a few that are vocal saying, oh, it's just, it's just a breeding ground for trouble like this. I'm going to kill this cat, by the way. Sorry. But I don't agree with that. I mean, it's part of the game. You congratulate the victor. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes guys walk by and ignore guys, and they don't like things that happen, and they might give them a stern handshake and then a little lecture, whatever. It's still part of the game. It's still teaching a little bit about some sportsmanship in the game, right? Alan says he watched it live. I remember, I think, Alan, you were talking about it when we may have been live on Sunday when you had talked about this. Michigan went full court press at the end after Wisconsin coach called the timeout despite being up 20. Again, part of one of the reasons Greg Gard called a timeout, though, was to get the ball across half court as Michigan was still pressing down 20. I can fault both coaches here, right? Again, you play to the whistle. So if you want to, and I don't think it's wrong either way, call timeouts, press, do what you got to do. Again, I've always preached that you're getting blown out. It's not my job to stop me or a team's responsibility to give up when they're down a certain number of points. So that part is really kind of blown out of proportion. These two coaches took that to too much of an extreme of taking umbrage to the other. Ridiculous. If hockey players can do it, and other sports should be fine. No, I don't necessarily look at. There shouldn't be fisticuffs. And hockey's a little bit of a different breed. I don't really know how to explain it. Hockey and fighting is not as accepted as it was in hockey 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the Broad Street Bullies. But I cannot believe it. You guys have got to hear that cat, can't you? I'm going to just get... Oh, you're talking about the handshake line. Yes, right. I mean, look at the handshake line. It's happened in sports for most years. It doesn't really happen in baseball. It doesn't happen in professional football, but it happens on the high school level for all of these sports. And you need to learn to lose like a man, right? I always talk about sports being a great teacher, not just how to win, but how to lose. Because we all lose a lot in life, guys. And if you're going to start fights and take umbrage, and we can't have handshake lines because we're going to worry about, one altercation that happened, it gets blown out of proportion. And again, I don't know whether I'm not condoning Juwan Howard's actions here, but I don't think he's the only one at fault. Greg Gard's at fault too. The assistant coach, and his name is escaping me right now, from Wisconsin is at fault because after they kind of pulled apart a little bit, he gets his hands kind of on Juwan Howard again. And then Juwan Howard did what he did, and he's not an example. And to be honest with you, as a player, and he was a very good college and professional basketball player, Juwan Howard. And maybe I'm wrong. You guys can correct me. I don't know that he had any reputation for, lashing out, bad attitude or anger issues. I think he's worked up. He's fighting for his life to get to the NCAA tournament. This certainly affects Michigan's ability to potentially get to that tournament because he's gone for the remaining 5 games. And Phil Martelli, who's a very capable coach, by the way, we'll talk about that in a second, will be filling in. But I just don't. I think this is out of character for Juwan Howard, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But there were some. I don't think Juwan Howard's a guy with a bad reputation for this type of thing as a player, and it's the first time I've seen it rear its ugly head as a coach. But let's not forget, most things don't happen in a vacuum. I don't think Juwan Howard's a lunatic who just lost his mind. He was spurred to this. Not so much, and again, this is just my opinion, not so much by the timeouts or the end of that game and how it played out, but by Greg Gard's insistence that he had to explain himself during that midcourt handshake. Just let it go. Juwan Howard obviously wanted nothing to do with you. You should have let him go by. And by the way, I'm pretty sure if Juwan Howard wanted to do some damage in that fight, it probably could have happened because he's a big dude and Greg Gard is not. When you win or lose, do it with class. I agree. This affects a lot. The Big Ten, where's my standings? And let's see where does Michigan right now? Michigan in Joe Lunardi's on the bubble, which we'll talk more about. They're the last 4 in. They've worked their way a long ways to get to that point. But without their head coach for 5 games, he will return for the tournament. It's going to make that task a little tougher. Now, as I said before, Phil Martelli, who's a long time, I think he coached 24, 25 years at oh gosh, the Philadelphia school. Help me out. Oh boy, let me find it. Somebody's going to have it posted before I get to it. Come on, it was a big time school at one point. Oh, why can't I think of the name of the school? Absolutely terrible. St. Joe's. God, St. Joe's. 24, 25 years head coach at St. Joe's. Had some really good teams. Had a team that went undefeated into the NCAA tournament one year with Jameer Nelson, if you remember. Very good team. Assistant coach was nowhere near Howard the second time Howard. Did it happen last year? Well, then I'm wrong, and he's got a history now. And it wasn't that he was nowhere near him. I mean, they were all in a scrum there. He didn't shut his mouth. Look at nobody, and I still say both sides are at fault here. I'm not going to, regardless of whether Juwan Howard has a history or doesn't have a history. And again, I don't remember last year's incident, and I don't know the circumstances. This one I saw very close up. For 3 days now, I've watched this video, and I'm going to tell you one more time. If Greg Gard walks past Juwan Howard and doesn't put his hands on him, this doesn't happen. Plain and simple. Juwan Howard's wrong. Juwan Howard deserves to be suspended for 5 games. But let's not give Greg Gard a total pass here. I did hear that Marshall is suing Conference USA so they can exit and move to the Sun Belt by summer. And I believe the other 3 schools want to leave at the same time, correct? So that's going to be a big story as we get going forward as well. What else was I going to talk about with this Michigan thing? So again, we don't have to beat this to death. It's obviously the big story, and it's going to continue to be a story as we play out the rest of the season here, and it'll be a big story when Juwan Howard returns to the sideline. So again, coaches cannot act this way. It's not. As you were talking about earlier, Rick, I have no problem with the Danny Hurley getting the crowd up. But coaches have got to act with some decorum when it comes to dealing with each other or other players. I mean, there's been instances in the past where coaches have gotten into altercations with opposing players. That stuff cannot happen with leaders of men, people you're trying to grow into men. It's not just coaching. It's not about wins and losses only. These kids learn a lot from coaches and take a lot away from them. Rick, you know that as well as anybody. We've talked about it a ton of times on this show about some of our coaches in our youth and the things that we learned. And you can learn bad as well as good from your coaches. So, and again, this thing goes both ways. Juwan Howard took a swing. Bad move. Probably fortunate to keep his job. But I did not like Greg Gard's actions in this game even a little bit. So anyway, let's move on from that topic. And I want to take a quick look right now. And this is going to change some because some of these teams probably have lost since I've been away. I wasn't able to pull up this information to address the in-season top 16 seeds. And then we'll look at the bracketology and we'll look at some of the conferences. We'll look at the rankings. Well, you know what? Let's go to the rankings first. I think we'll look at that first. And again, we can circle back to any of these topics. As you guys know, I got no problem jumping around here. So let's look at the top 25. Gonzaga's number 1. Second week in a row. And as we expected, Arizona is now number 2. Auburn dropped another spot to number 2. Number 3. Only dropping to number 3 after losing. They're starting to show a little bit of wear and tear. They're starting to show some weaknesses and some guard play and some shooting ability. And Auburn is showing some weaknesses that may be exposed as we get into the tournament. But Gonzaga stays at number 1. Arizona moves up past Auburn to number 2, and Auburn slides in that 3rd spot. Purdue moves up 1 to number 4. Big Ten, very good, by the way. We're going to talk about Iowa. They get into the top 25. Definitely, definitely, as I said, in contention for that NCAA tournament. We're going to look at how many schools Big Ten may get in. I still think it comes down to Big Ten and the Big 12, who gets the most schools in. Kansas moves up 1 to number 5. Kentucky drops 2 spots after losing a game this week to number 6. Duke is up 2 spots, playing a little bit better now, up to 23 wins. Coach K is okay, by the way. He did leave a game over the weekend at halftime and didn't return due to exhaustion, and it appears to be nothing more than that, hopefully. And remember, Coach K is playing out his final season on the Duke sideline. So great storylines coming up here in the NCAA tournament. That's just one of them. Villanova moves up to number 8. They're going to fall backwards, though, after a loss to conference rival UConn the other night, which I alluded to earlier. And Rick was talking about Danny Hurley. You know what? Imagine a few years back when St. John's hired Chris Mullen. They were interested or Danny Hurley was interested in the job. Danny Hurley never even got a phone call. And Danny Hurley ended up at Rhode Island. Chris Mullen was basically a waste at St. John's. They did get to one NCAA tournament, I think, in the play-in games. And, it just was not a good run for Chris Mullen. It just never worked out. And Danny Hurley he was interested in the job. Never got a call. Danny Hurley could have rebuilt St. John's, I think, into what they used to be at one point. What do we got here? Duke's in a tight game now against Virginia. Virginia's playing some better basketball. The ACC, we've talked all year about how the ACC's been down. Virginia's 8-8 in the conference going into this game, and Duke is obviously leading the conference at 13-3. The conference has made a bit of a move here in the last 3 weeks or so. It's not looking quite as down as it was. There was a time where you could have made an argument for one selection from this conference. That won't happen now. But it's still, even Syracuse has gotten hot in that conference. They're at 9-7 now, 15-12. All of a sudden, they could be playing themselves close to on the bubble. Who knows? Although no signature wins for Syracuse right now. Back to the rankings. I appreciate the in-game updates too, by the way, guys. It's good to have those because I hate to turn it on so that I don't get my stream interrupted here, which is a very weird thing to say for a 62-year-old man, isn't it? Sorry. TMI. Texas Tech, one of Allen's favorite teams out there in the Big 12. They move up 2 spots into the top 10 again. Number 9. Baylor drops 3. Baylor looked like they were riding the ship, and they've lost another game. They're down 3 spots to 10. Providence with a loss this week falls back to falls back 3 spots to number 11. UCLA trying to crawl back into that top 10. They're at 12. They moved up 1 spot. Wisconsin, as we talked about, is now at 12-5, and they've moved up 2 spots. Houston, who get left out of that initial top 16 seeds, the in-season top 16. They remain at number 14. A little surprised Houston was left out of those top 4 seeds in each region. Very surprised. Illinois down 3 spots after getting very hot. Bruce Underwood had his team playing very, very good basketball, and they fall back 3 spots this past week. USC trying to fight back after a bit of a lull in their success. They've moved up 1 spot to 16. Tennessee down 1 spot to 17. Arkansas with a bullet at number 5. Eric Musselman, by the way, guys, one of the most underrated coaches in the NCAA. And I'm going to tell you what, I put a futures bet on Arkansas. I wanted somebody to just put a flyer on to win the tournament. Plus 8,000. Plus 8,000. That's, you bet 100, you win 8,000. I took a flyer. I wanted to find one team that I thought could get hot. I love the way Arkansas plays basketball. I love the way Eric Musselman coaches basketball. This is a team to watch out come tournament time. I'm not saying they're going to win. I was looking for a good price. There's a couple teams you could have picked. This is a team I like because they're getting hot at the right time. And they played a really tough schedule. When you come through the gauntlet of the SEC and you're playing this kind of basketball this time of year, watch out. Murray State, as we talked about, the number 1 seeded mid-major team in the country. They're at number 19 in the overall poll this year, this month, this week, this year. Texas stays at 20. UConn, who's up 3 spots to 21. Again, the Big East. The Big East is a very interesting case study right now. Some of the teams that were playing well early are not playing as well. St. John's has put themselves in a conversation now, potentially for the tournament. They played very well the last few weeks. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in that tournament and how many teams may come out of that conference. Ohio State, with a bad loss this week to Rutgers. Rutgers playing much better basketball. Rutgers has played their way into the conversation now after being a very, very poor start. I believe Ohio State lost to Rutgers this week. They dropped 4 spots, 22. St. Mary's up 3 spots, playing out there in the Western Collegiate Conference with Gonzaga. That league could get 3 spots this year in the tournament. It'd be very interesting. Usually it's a 1-bid league. Alabama starting to play much better under Coach Oates. They're up 1-24. And the aforementioned Iowa Hawkeyes of Fran McCafferty playing really good basketball right now, up to number 25. And dropping out this week, Michigan State and Wyoming. Michigan State is just, I'm not sure what's going on there. Tom Izzo, this is the time of year he usually shines and his teams shine, and they just can't seem to get it going. So tough times for Coach Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. So let's take a look. As we talked about that, let's take a look at the top 16. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Here we go. Oh, that's not it. Come on, I got you here somewhere. I had you open and I lost you. Where'd I put it? Bear with me. Here we go. Here's the in-season top 16 seeds in each region, as done by the committee that will actually do the seeding and the selections just a few Sundays from now. Number 1 seed in the tournament, the Gonzaga Zags. Number 1 in the West. Number 1 in the Midwest, the Auburn Tigers. That number 1 seed could be getting in jeopardy if Auburn were to stumble again. Not sure exactly how solid that is. Arizona, number 1 in the South. I think all of these number 1 seeds, other than Gonzaga, could be swayed come tournament time. Kansas, number 1 in the East, a little bit of a surprise. Baylor, number 5 number 2, in the South. They're the first of the number 2 seeds. Kentucky, number 2 in the East. Purdue, number 2 in the Midwest. And the last number 2 seed is Duke, who would be out west. Now, I mean, I could probably see Kentucky, Purdue, or Duke sliding into one of those number 1 seeds. Got to win their tournaments. The first number 3 seed is Villanova out of the Big East before their loss to UConn. So they're tentative. They're not going to fall out of the top 16, I don't think. None of these teams we've talked about so far, I don't think, are in any danger of falling out of the top 16. We'll talk about I would think Oklahoma's out right now, by the way, Alan, based on their play recently. We'll talk about that in a second. The second number 3 seed would be Texas Tech. I can see Texas Tech moving up to a 2 as well, by the way. The way they're playing, they get to the Big 12 final, watch out. Could be a jump to a number 2 there. Tennessee, number 3. Very tentative. I can see Tennessee easily falling out of this top 16. Illinois, been playing really good basketball since these polls came out. Some of these teams have lost already. And I can see Tennessee in danger, Illinois in danger. Wisconsin's at the first number 4 seed in the East. I could see Wisconsin moving up as high as a 2 or falling out of the top 16. UCLA, again, they could move up probably to a 3 only, but could fall out of the top 16. Providence, another team that could go either way. Texas, a bit of a surprise at number 16. That's your first 16. Little surprised Kansas being that 4th, number 1. And I'm a little surprised that there's no love for Houston. I think they're 14th in the country, I said, right? And no love for them getting in this top 16. Providence on the 4 line at the time of this polling, this Providence team, I think, was 8th in the country. Who else? What other surprises? Any other surprises you guys see in that part of the rankings? A little surprised that Baylor's as high as they are. A little surprised that Providence was as low as they are. Other teams that could sneak in? Again, my aforementioned pick of Arkansas, I can see sneaking into that top 16 pretty easily the way they're playing right now. Texas, I don't think Texas will finish in the top 16. UConn could easily get hot and move into that top 16, I think, along with Villanova. And, you could see an outsider, maybe in Iowa. Maybe, who knows? Murray State's 19th in the country. Wouldn't it be interesting to see Murray State move into one of those top 4 seeds? See what we got here from Alan. So you think Oklahoma's out? I think Oklahoma's out as well. I'm going to kill this cat. I'm absolutely going to kill him. Don't leave your cats at the boarding school. The vets for 11 days, they get very anxious when they get home. They love them there, though, man. They don't want to give them back to me. They charge me, but they don't really want to give them back to me. Oklahoma has fallen to 4-11 in the Big 12 and 14-14 overall. Allen, they put a fork in them. They're done. I'm a little surprised at Baylor, yes, being a 2 right now. I think that's kind of a history pick. Now Baylor could very well get hot and earn that number 2 seed. Because look at it's still a team that is capable of winning the Big 12 tournament. But I'm a little surprised at that early number 2 ranking. I'm not okay, if that's a word, with Kansas being a number 1 seed. To be honest with you, I would kind of go with Purdue instead of Kansas, but that's just me. And again, I think you can quibble. And at the end of the day, 1s and 2s, does it really matter? Does it really matter at the end? If everything plays out, they play each other anyway. So I don't think it's that big a deal. Texas Tech moving up to 1, I think would be a reach. Allen, what are they now? They're number 9. They're 21-8. That's 21-6. Sorry. Let's take a look at their conference record here. 11-4. I guess again, if they win out the regular season, win the Big 12 tournament, they could have a legitimate shot at a 1. I think it's more likely Texas Tech will end up at 2 if they have a good season. Yeah. The Cowboys. Too bad the Oklahoma State Cowboys Oklahoma State Cowboys are so bad now. They were on such a good run during the Eddie Sutton years, and even a little bit for a while after that under his son, and later on, I think Travis Ford has had a little bit of success there, but Oklahoma had a really good run for a while in the Big 12. But that's gone by the wayside. So anybody else? Does anybody else stand out as a possible top 16 team? Sure. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look now at some bracketology. And I think we'll look at Joe Lunardi's. So the last 4 buys right now for Joe Lunardi. Miami. Miami. By the way, I put one of my I put my Belize hat here. We weren't in Belize this last year, but I think the University of Belize should get some love in this NCAA tournament. So Miami's one of the last 4 buys. North Carolina starting to play some better basketball. I've talked a little bit tonight about ACC. I've been very, very tough on the ACC. But they're starting to play some better basketball all of a sudden. And it'll be very interesting to see how many teams get in here. Creighton from the Big East is also one of the last 4 buys. And San Francisco, as I said, from the WCC, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and San Francisco all have legitimate chances. Obviously, Gonzaga's in. I think pretty sure that St. Mary's is in regardless of what they do the rest of the way. San Francisco might have some work to do, obviously, but right now, Joe Lunardi has them as one of their last 4 buys, and I'm not going to make an argument about that. Here now, where Michigan and the where am I? Should I have something else up here? We're doing some bracketology, or I should probably put that up. Do I have one? There we go. Oh, that's not it. Oh, I thought I had one. Yeah, I really need a producer for this show. You know how hard it is to work a job that's 55 hours a week and do what I do here? I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but ugh, jeepers creepers. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, I was talking about Michigan. And here's where the Juwan Howard thing really becomes into play. Right now, Joe Lunardi has Michigan as one of the last 4 in, along with Indiana. Mike Woodson done a great job there in his first year at the helm of Indiana, his alma mater. Memphis, as much as Penny Hardaway has been maligned, this team is starting to play better basketball. And I personally think they're probably one of the last 4 buys right now. Maybe not Creighton, maybe not San Francisco. I think Memphis would have one of the last 4 buys, not be one of the last 4 in. And San Diego State, no argument there. Now we get to the interesting part of this. First 4 out and the next 4 out. One of these first 4 out is going to surprise you, Alan, because it surprises me. SMU, I get it. They should be squarely on the bubble. BYU, Dayton, and I skipped over the one in third, Oklahoma. Joe Lunardi, I'm confused, and I like Joe Lunardi, and I think that's why I use his bracketology and his his picks as my guide, and I'll make my calls from there. But how does he have Oklahoma, the 3rd team out? The 3rd team out of the tournament at 4-11 in the conference and 14-14 overall. This is updated yesterday, guys. The next 4 out. Florida. A nice win over Auburn. Might help their chances a little bit. I might put them a little closer to the bubble. Kansas State playing better in the Big 12. Deep team. Again, I talk about this all the time. I don't know that I can live with 7-7 teams or teams that are less than 7-7 or 500, however many teams they play in their conference. I don't know that I can get behind teams that can't finish 500 in their conference getting in the tournament. The other two on the bubble as the next four out, so these would be the 7th and 8th teams, Oregon and St. Bonaventure, who's been a bit up and down in the A10 and has got a really talented team and has had a couple of really good seasons here leading up to this year, and still could get into the picture here. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into some of the conference chat. What do you got here, Alan? It's because of Big 12 and how good the conference is as a whole. Which thing are we talking about? Oklahoma? No. No. Oklahoma hasn't beaten, I don't think, one of the best teams in the Big 12. Believe me, I like Oklahoma and I like Porter Moser. I want to see Oklahoma do well. I want to see him do well there. But again, 4-11 in the conference and 500 overall. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that they should be even close to the bubble. What are some of your classmates that were in the audio-visual club doing? Maybe they could find a producer who's retiring. Buck Buchanan. I don't remember anybody else. Wasn't Joe Alexa in the? He's older than me, so I don't know. I don't know if he's your class or not. Actually, Pete Alexa might have been in the audiovisual club too. Was Joe Alexa in the audiovisual club, Rick? I know this will be an exciting conversation for the rest of you out there, but now I'm intrigued and I need to know. Oh boy! So I'm back to Alan. Alan and I are gonna beating Texas Tech at home. All right. When though? Again, that's one good win. I mean, you've been trumpeting, I think. Well, you've been trumpeting the Big 12 altogether. Iowa State, with a horrendous record as well, by the way, in my mind. Where are they? Let's look at this a little bit. Big 12. Well, Iowa State's moved up to 5-9, 18-9. But Iowa State's got like 7 quad 1 wins. That's why they're still in play. But I'm still going to have trouble getting behind some of these teams that can't even get close to 500 in their conference. Let me see where Iowa State is. Oh crap! It didn't work. Thought I could control up here. Here we go. Well, maybe if I spelled it right. Iowa State is an 8 seed in Joe Lunardi's picks in the East. Interesting. I know that's one of your guys or one of your schools. So right now, his conference breakdown, Joe Lunardi's, and I'm going to kind of do my own in a second. He's got the Big 10 with 9, the Big East with 7. A little surprising there. Big 12 with only 6, Alan. 6 teams. I've said I think it's a battle between the Big 12 and the Big 10. Who's going to get the most in? SEC with 6. ACC, he's got up to 5, which I believe he's had 4 the last few times we've looked at this. Mountain West with 4. Mountain West, sneaky good. The WCC with 3. Pac-12 with 3, and American now with 2. And then the rest would be all one-bid conferences. So let's take a quick look around some of these conferences and see if we agree with Joe Lunardi. Real quick. Sun Conference, look at one bid. Probably still Liberty. America East, excuse me. Albany playing better. Our local Albany team playing much, much better. They're 8-7 in the league, 12-15 overall. They'd have to go in and shock the league and win the tournament to get in. Probably Vermont at 14-1 is going to come away with the bid here. The American Athletic Conference, the AAC, now has Houston Cougars definitely in, and I say Memphis definitely in. And I think SMU. This could be a 3-team conference. I believe Lenardi's got 2. I'm going to say it's a 3-bid conference because I don't think some of these teams ought to be getting in, with records that are so bad in their conference. And Memphis, as I said, after a difficult start to the season and not a good season last year, and Penny Hardaway, having some issues with criticism and whatnot, he's righted the ship there a little bit. They're 9-5, 15-9 overall, and the AAC is not a bad basketball conference. The A10, Davidson is definitely in. I'd say VCU is definitely in. Then you got Dayton and St. Bonaventure probably fighting it out for the last spot. St. Louis maybe could get into the conversation here, but I'm going to say this is a 3-team league and it comes down, or 3-bid league, and it comes down to Dayton and St. Bonaventure for that last spot. The ACC, very interesting. They've got them up to 6. Joe Lenardi's got them up to 6. So that's Duke, Notre Dame, Miami, North Carolina, Wake Forest, and I believe Virginia. Let me just double check Lenardi's. I doubt he's got Syracuse in here. I hope he doesn't. But Syracuse is playing their way in. Same thing Jim Boeheim has done. He hasn't had great teams. No, they're not in. Not in right now. But I'm not sure that there's 6 teams here that are worthy in the ACC. Duke, yes. Notre Dame, I'm going to say yes. Miami, I'm going to say yes. 12-5 in the conference. They beat Duke. They're 28 overall. Carolina, they played their way. They haven't beat really their good competition. Again, most of their record is built off of beating up on some weak sisters. But they're 12-5 in the league now and 20-8 overall. Wake Forest has slipped a bit recently, but they're still 11-6 and 21-7. And I guess it's going to come down, if they're going to get 6 picks, it's going to come down to Virginia and maybe Syracuse. Syracuse could play their way in if they get hot here near the end. The Big 12, Alan, so we can have our little dispute right now. Oh, gosh. The Big 12, which is, by the way, the Big 10. Unbelievable. Every time I look at this, I go to the standings, right, and I look at the Big 12, and I go, there's not 12 teams there. Kansas, definitely in. Texas Tech, definitely in. Baylor in. Texas in. Maybe I was wrong. Because now you got TCU under 500. 17-8 overall. Jamie Dixon's done a good job there. I'd like to see them finish 500. They're probably going to get in the tournament. Kansas State on the bubble. Iowa State, right now, Joe Lenardi has them in the tournament. Again, they're 7th place in the conference. You can't tell me right now, and I've talked up the Big 12 a lot this year. You can't tell me the Big 12 is better than the Big 10. I don't think it's better than the SEC anymore. I don't even know if it's better than the Big East because they have really faltered recently in this conference, and they're beating each other up. I get that, Alan. I know you're going to tell me that. But I'm having a hard time getting past, TCU. 5 teams. Surprised when I pulled this up and I saw how much this had dropped since I really looked at it last. Last week when we did the show, I didn't have a chance to have this up when we were talking. The Big East, by comparison. Providence, yes. Villanova, yes. UConn, yes. Creighton, yes. 10-5, 18-8 overall. I got to say they're in. Marquette, probably in. Probably some work to do yet. Got cat problems tonight. Oh, Marquette probably in 9-7, 17-10 overall. Their hot streak has cooled off a bit recently. They've gotten to a really good streak in midseason under Shaka Smart. They're going to need to finish up strong, I think, and win a couple games in the tournament to solidify a selection. And then you get down to look at, if you're going to tell me, Alan, that Oklahoma and Iowa State and West Virginia and these teams all deserve consideration with less than 5 or less wins in their conference, then Seton Hall at 7-8 and 16-9 overall in the Big East has got to be considered. St. John's at 7-8, 15-11, playing much better basketball recently. Xavier, 7-8, 17-9. All these teams have to be considered. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. Probably 6 or 7 of them get in. I'm going to kill this cat. I swear to God, guys. Anyway, St. John's, somebody's going to get hot. And I'm going to make a prediction right now that St. John's is going to get hot in the Big East tournament. They're going to get to the semis, maybe get to the final, and they're going to get into the NCAA tournament. I think I might have said the same thing last year as a disclaimer. But I do think that they're going to make a little run here. The Big Sky, one bid league, probably Montana State. The Big South as well, a one bid team. I'll take Winthrop here. Big Ten. Here we go again. You want to compare the two leagues, Alan? Where are you? You've gone quiet on me, buddy. Purdue, Illinois, 15th in the country, but second in the Big Ten at 12-4. Wisconsin, Iowa State. I'm saying Rutgers is in right now. 10-6, 16-10 on a great run the last 3 weeks. Iowa on a great run the last month or so. 9-7 now in the league, 19-8 overall. I say they're in. Michigan State, again, it depends on how you're playing. The record says they should be in, but sometimes it depends on how you're playing at the time they're making these selections a couple of weeks from now. So going to be an interesting selection time when we get to Michigan State, Michigan, Indiana. But that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams, 9 possible teams from the Big Ten. Don't think they'll all get in. Maybe 8. What did Lenardi say? He's got 9. So he's got all 9 of those teams getting in. And he's got all the 7 of the teams that I talked about in the Big East. Very interesting. Big West, one bid league, probably Long Beach State, maybe Cal Fullerton. The Colonial Athletic, again, one bid league. I'll take UC Wilmington. Conference USA, we talked a little bit about some drama here, which is probably more football related than it is basketball related. But this is gonna be a one bid league as well. I'm going out on a limb and say the UAB Blazers win the tournament and get in the league from there. The Horizon. Cleveland State's been dominant here for a couple of years. I'm going to go out and say Purdue Fort Wayne wins this league. The Ivy League, very, very competitive this year with Yale at 10-2, Princeton at 9-2, Penn at 9-3. Be very interesting. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Ivy League is still the one conference without a postseason tournament. The Metro Atlantic. See, Iona's struggled a little bit lately, and they lost to Siena. Siena here locally in Loudonville near Albany. did beat Iona here this past week while I was away. And I thought Iona was a given. They didn't need to win the tournament to be able to get in. Now, I'm not sure they'll get that at large if they don't win the tournament. Siena, by the way, playing much better basketball at 10-6, 13-11 overall. Monmouth is in second place at 10. Well, they're tied for second place with Siena at 10-6. I think they hold a tiebreaker, though. And St. Peter's also at 10-6. It's going to be a very, very competitive MAC tournament. And I follow this one very closely because I've always rooted pretty well for pretty hard for the Siena Saints locally. They've had some good runs into the tournament over the years with Fran McCafferty, Paul Hewitt, back to Mike Dean. Get out of here. Get. Oh my God. Just you can't make it up. It's going to be very interesting. If Iona wins this tournament, and they're going to be favored to win, they're going to go to the tournament. They're not going to get another bid in. If Monmouth or Siena or St. Peter's should upset Iona and win this tournament, Iona could make it a two-bid league. And this, now you're saying, why do you spend so much time in the MAC? Because I live right here. Mid-American Conference, that's going to be a one-bid league, probably Ohio or Toledo. I'm going to go with Ohio. Mid-Eastern, one-bid league. Norfolk, we'll say Norfolk State. Missouri Valley's a bit of an interesting case with Loyola Chicago leading the way, replacing Porter Moser very nicely, and being 21-6 overall, 12-4 in the league. They've been ranked a lot of the year. They've fallen out of the rankings recently, but probably in the driver's seat for this league. Could end up being a multiple bid league, as Northern Iowa is also at 12-4. Not a good overall record, though, at 16-10. If you're going to get a at-large bid from one of these mid-major conferences, you're going to have a stellar overall record as well as a good league record, which would put still maybe Missouri State or Drake as a possible second seed from the Missouri Valley. The Mountain West we talked about pretty strong. Lenardi's got 4 bids for them, with Boise State at the top. Wyoming just fell out of the top 25 this week. I'm going to say Boise State gets in, Wyoming gets in, Colorado State, sneaky good, gets in. And as Lenardi says, he's got San Diego State as one of the last 4 teams in. I will also say they get in, and the Mountain West gets those 4 bids. Northeast Conference, again, one bid league. I'll take Wagner. They're 15-1, 19-3 overall. We'll take the favorite in the chalk there. Ohio Valley, again, one bid league. Easily should be Murray State. This is the best team of the mid-majors, 26-2 overall, undefeated in the league at 16-0. Maybe the Belmont team can give them a run for their money here in the tournament. Pac-12. I don't know. At one point, I thought this was going to be a one bid league, for crying out loud. But Arizona got hot. They're 14-1 now, 24-2 overall. USC is in second place, 12-4, 23-4. UCLA, 12-4, 20-5. They're all in. Then it becomes, are you going to get an Oregon team in there? They're only 17-10 overall, 10-6 in the league. Colorado's played better, 10-7, 18-9. That's probably all you got a shot at. And I don't think there's any way they're getting 5 in. 4 on the outside. All depends on what Oregon does in this conference tournament. If they can win a few games, if they win it, they're in and they'll get 4 bids. If they don't win it, they're going to have to get to the final and lose, probably, in my mind, to get in. The Patriot League, probably nobody cares, but I'll take the Colgate Raiders. The Southwestern Conference, again, very, very strong. Strong at the top, strong in the middle. Auburn, holding steady at 12-2. Has fallen down to number 3 in the country, still on that one line. They need to finish the job in the SEC to stay on that one line in my mind. Kentucky's going to battle them in the tournament, and they're going to want that one seed as well. Arkansas now third in the conference, 11-4, 22-6. That's why I took that futures bet at 100 to win $8,000. That's my long shot pick for the tournament. Remember that when they go out in the first round that I said that. Tennessee, 11-4, they're getting in. Alabama's getting in, probably 8-7, 18-10 overall. Again, Alan, remember, over 500 in a good league. You cannot tell me that the Big 12 is any deeper than the SEC. And there's not a team in the SEC that's getting in with a record under 500. Nobody. Florida's under 500, 7-8. I don't see them getting in. Mississippi State, 500. South Carolina's 500. I don't think either one of them is getting in. I think they're going to get 6 teams in, and LSU would be the last team. Saying. So how do we leave out 7-7 South Carolina, 7-7 Florida, 7-8 Florida? Mississippi State 7-7, 7-8 Florida. I'm looking at some of these others big. I'm leaving out Colorado at 10-7, and Oregon at 10-6. Who else we got here with big conferences? Who did I say before? I'm going to scroll back up now. I'm thinking about leaving Michigan State out at 9-7, or Indiana, or Michigan. These teams are all at 500 in their conferences, but you want me to put in teams that are 4-11 and 5-9 from the Big 12? I can't do that. How do I do that? And how do I look the coaches and the players from the schools that were 500 in power conferences and tell them, no, you're not going. We're going to take every team in the Big 12 because can't do it, Alan. I can't do it. I missed the league probably here at the end because I skipped it. Where was I? That's probably enough. West Coast Conference, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, most likely all in. Santa Clara could make some noise come conference tournament time, and it could be very interesting to see how they finish that out. And then the Western Athletic Conference is, this used to be a really good conference. I don't know what happened to it. Gosh, New Mexico State would be the prohibitive favorite there, with Seattle University maybe coming up from the outside. So that's our look at bracketology. That's our look at the conferences. Let's see what's going on since we're talking about it. We were talking about it earlier. Let's look at the scoreboard real quick. The top 25 scoreboard. Not much going on. Virginia giving Duke all they can handle at Virginia, 39-35 now. I think it's at the half. No, they just started the second half. Xavier's beating Providence. Providence, again, Providence, most of the year, people were thinking they were a product of luck. And right now, they're starting to prove people right. They're starting to fade at the wrong time. In the Big 12, big game for TCU against Texas at Texas. Right now, they lead Texas. Not too far into the second half, 37-36. And Houston and Tulane are tied at 9 very early in the game. So that's your look at the top 25 right now. See if there's any other games of note that we want to take a look at as far as teams on the bubble potentially or things like that before we go. I mentioned a St. John's big game against Creighton. Both of these teams on the bubble or close to the bubble if they're not on the bubble. St. John's with a 1-point lead with just 3 minutes left in that game. Go Johnnies. South Carolina beating up on Mississippi State. They will be at they'll be above 500 in the SEC. Again, Alan, tell me how you leave this team out. I don't think you're here anymore because you're not commenting. Or I ticked you off. I don't know. How do you leave these teams home and take 5 and 9 and 4 and 11 teams from the Big 12? I can't do it. We're going to talk about this every week until the Selection Sunday comes. And I'm thinking about doing a Selection Sunday show. What do you guys think? Should we do a live show while they do the unveiling? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Where else we got going on? I talked about that game. Duke now leads Virginia by 5, by the way. That game we don't care about. We don't care about that game. We don't care about that game. Look for something that might have some impact on the Syracuse getting beat by Notre Dame solidly so right now, 8 points anyway, almost midway through the second half. This is a game I would say that is a must win for Syracuse if they're going to get themselves going back on. Yep, there you go, Rick. Thank you. Rick was all over that. I just got to it as you were putting it up, I think, Rick. Syracuse is actually, down 55-47 now. Clemson, Wake Forest. Look at Wake Forest can't afford too many losses here either. This is not a good spot for them to lose a game here. Many other. Albany's losing to Maine. That's always big across the country, given the Albany score. West Virginia. Here's another one. Here you go. This is a perfect example. I know you're gone, Alan, or you'd be commenting on this. West Virginia is beating up Iowa State right now by scores about to change, it looks like. I think 10 points. Still a lot of time left in that game, but come on. These teams at the bottom of the Big 12 cannot do this. Drake, an important game for them. They got to they got to win all the games they can to have a shot at that large bid. They're winning against Valparaiso. Anything else we're interested in? Rutgers. The Rutgers in Michigan, big game, 48-44. Yeah, Rick's got, I believe that's that Iowa State game. Right now, Rutgers in Michigan, it's 50-45 Michigan with Phil Martelli. Listen, Phil Martelli is no slouch as a coach. He's a tremendous slouch. Don't name the movie. You'll get it, Rick. I know you will. What else? Houston losing to Tulane very early. I mentioned that before. Important game for SMU. They're losing to Tulsa very early in the game, only by a point. And Army. I'll just give Army a shout out, winning 73-60. That's a final over Bucknell. Army is not going to the tournament. So that's all the games that are going on live here. Let's take another quick look up here before we leave at this St. John's score. I'm very interested here. Now they're down by 1 with 1:39 left. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's take a look at the game cast. Maybe we'll leave by watching this game. I wish I could turn on. If I was worried about losing the stream, he's a good replacement for Rocky Howard. Oh, gosh. Rocky Howard. By the way, let's just finish up where we started here, right? While I watch the end of this, or keep an eye on the end of this St. John's game as we wrap up the show. I will start where we started. With Rick's comment about Rocky Howard. Keep in mind, and again, I'm not excusing Juwan Howard's actions, but God forbid should Juwan Howard have wanted to hurt somebody. He's a big man. And that could have been, it was an ugly, ugly situation and inexcusable. I'm certainly not making excuses for Juwan Howard. He could have hurt somebody. I mean, again, Greg Gard is at least a foot shorter than him, if not more. I don't know. And I couldn't get a good look at the assistant coach. And again, if I said he put his hands on him earlier, Rick, and you're probably right, because again, as I'm replaying it in my mind, Howard had kind of got pushed away, and then that coach kind of got up in his face a little bit, and that's who he took a swing at, with somebody between them, at least a couple of players or coaches. I'm not sure who it was. Very interesting, though. When you look at this thing from different angles, I looked at one angle, I would have bet my life he threw a punch at him. But it's funny when you see it from another angle, his hand's open when he comes to his face. But regardless, it's inexcusable and cannot be. St. John's, by the way, has now fallen behind 79-76 with 44 seconds left in the game. And I believe they have the ball, and they just called timeout. So I don't know that we're going to get to see the end of this game, but anything else? So, Rick, I think Alan jumped ship on me because I talked too much trash about the Big 12 tonight. And it's funny, it's not like I haven't talked about that league being a good league, but it's things have swung. The pendulum is swung, and the strength is in the Big 10, the SEC, the Big East, even very surprisingly, that the Big East is really rebounding, I think, very, very well last year was a pretty good year for them. And Villanova's been very competitive, but the league overall, since it broke up over the football and all the teams going to the ACC, and some of the teams leaving the basketball portion of it as well to go elsewhere. It's good to see the Big East back, and some of these traditional original ACC teams, Providence, Villanova, UConn, St. John's, Seton Hall, even doing very, very well, and all with a chance to make the NCAA tournament. And I think it's really, really fun. Started as a punch, but it was out of reach and ended up as an open hand. You're probably right. And it's funny too, Rick, because when he pulls his hand back, it's in a fist again. So it's very fortunate for Juwan Howard. Again, if we're going to say it started as a punch, didn't land as a punch, he's very fortunate that it didn't, because Juwan Howard's a big man. He's going to hurt somebody if he hits them in anger, and he was angry. But again, Rick, before we wrap this up, we only got 3 minutes, and I don't want to go over. Well, maybe we'll go 1 minute over. I don't know. I haven't heard you comment on this, and I hope you will before we have to sign off. Do you absolve? And by the way, St. John just scored. It's a 1-point game now with 24 seconds left, and Posh Alexander just fouled. So I'm not sure who's going to the line. But we'll see who that is. Are you going to give Greg Gard a total pass on this whole situation? Because, again, I'm going to say one more time, if he'd just walked past him in the line, nothing would have happened. St. John's with the ball. Missed free throw. Let's see what happens here. Wish I could put this up live. I'd get kicked off of Facebook for sure. What's the score of that? They're not playing tonight. Yeah, Andrew Jackson. Let's keep mentioning him, because I forget to bring him up all the time. And Joe Altieri, who got me started in this whole thing, I believe he's related to Joe Altieri too, if I'm not mistaken, Rick. St. John's timeout, 17 seconds. I got to stay over. Hope I don't have any shows coming on the Roku after me tomorrow. I'll get in trouble. Let's put a little music on. Start to get ready to go. Give me your comment. No pass. There you go. Thank you. And again, I am not in any way absolving of Howard. Let's just be clear. ugly situation. Both coaches got to be bigger people than that. Let's see what happens here. 17 seconds. St. John's with a timeout and the ball. Somebody can put it on TV and tell me they won, probably. Joe Altieri is Andre's uncle. That's what I thought. That's what Joe told me. I miss Joe's show. I wish he was still doing his show. He got me doing this. Joe Altieri, thank you so much. I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed doing it on the Wake Up to the Vibe network when I got started. And it's a shame that it didn't work out that way. But Joe's doing some good things. Rick, I'm sure you're friends with Joe on Facebook because his photography is amazing. What do we got? Come on, we ain't got time for this timeout. We're going to go overtime. Oh, it's been a great night. I thank everybody on Facebook. I thank everybody on Twitter and YouTube and Rick and Alan for commenting tonight. And all of you that will see this on the groups that we'll share it to later. All you Roku viewers tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We got some great basketball coming up in the next few weeks. Conference tournaments will start very, very soon. And let's keep whoa. 8 seconds. I believe, sir, I'm not sure. Can't really tell. Well, it looks like Creighton is going to be going to the line. I think the foul was on Mathis. They missed a shot and got a foul. So Creighton's going to be able to lock this up, it looks like. And St. John's, their tournament chances take a major blow tonight. Assuming they cannot pull this out. Let's see. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes. I'll get yelled at for going over, but that's all right. Rick, you're still here. Tell me what you think. Should we do a live selection Sunday show at 6 or whatever time the selection show is? I'm thinking about it. Also, Rick, you can answer 2 questions for me before we go, since we're waiting for the end of this game. 81-78. And it looks like 5 seconds left. 81-78, St. John's gets the ball. Rick, you can answer absolutely to the tournament show. All right, we'll look into doing that. My wife will love me for that. 2 shows that Sunday. The other question, Rick, is I want to get some guys involved in doing a mock draft before the NFL draft. And I'm thinking I can certainly count on you. I need to draft some guys to do some selections for some other teams. So first of all, I hope you'd want to participate. We might have to double up guys or something. I doubt I'll get 32 guys to do this. But I got some people in mind. Obviously, the Patriots are already taken. The Cowboys are already taken with Allen. Minnesota with you. Green Bay with Kenny, I hope. I can maybe get Mark Robertshaw for the Dolphins, Billy for the Jets, and we need more guys that root for other teams. If you know somebody and hopefully you want to be involved, Rick, and you know somebody else, let's get them involved. Not sure how we got a Creighton timeout. Could be their ball. Yeah, let's get your brother. Let's get your brother in here to do the Giants. Anybody you know, that crew that roots for teams that are not already picked for. I get Dave Guyette to do the Buffalo pick, hopefully. I'm going to start making a list. So if you know somebody, Rick, shoot me some names. Reach out to them. So remember, maybe I'll put it in our chat, the teams that are already spoken for. Like we can't get Johnny to do the Patriots. Sorry. You know, I got to make that pick. So I'm waiting for the final here, and I haven't got it. But I guess I'm going to have to bug out of here because I'm already 4 minutes over. So I think we'll have some fun. So we're going to have our Sunday show. Guys, I want to thank all of you again. We'll have our Sunday Stream of Consciousness show. We'll have Are You Serious with Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, on Friday. We'll be talking more about this Juwan Howard bit, I'm sure, probably the college football playoff, and maybe some other things. So, and then we'll be talking about doing a Selection Sunday show here in a few weeks, and even an NFL draft, mock draft. Yeah, we'll get Johnny to pick for the Rams then. That will work. We got a lot of things we can do. I want to get as many people involved as we can. And what we'll do is we'll have I can't believe I'm still going on about this. We're going to have a link. So when somebody's going to make their pick, they'll come on camera with me. Now picking for the Minnesota Vikings, Rick Sherlock. And the pick, Kenny Pickett. Guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, right here for the Sports Huddle show on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. It's been a pleasure, guys. I've had a great night. Hope you have as well. We'll see you soon. Keith Engel out. See you Friday.